Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angela Tolosa, and I am the Deputy Program Director for Reentry at the National Reentry Resource Center here at the Council of State Governments Justice Center. Today, we are very excited to have Ms. Mary Griffin and Ms. Patricia Avery from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to talk about money matters, an overview of a financial literacy toolkit for practitioners. Before we get started, I just want to go over some housekeeping items. Thank you to everyone for participating today. First of all, if you have a question anytime during the webinar, I ask if you type it in the bottom right-hand corner where it says Q&A panel. And during that time, during the webinar, we will be keeping a running list of all the content-related questions that we receive. And at the end of the presentation, I will be having the panelists respond to the questions during the last segment of the webinar. We will do our best to get through as many questions as possible. If you have technical or audio problems during this webinar, please call WebEx tech support at 1-866-229-3239, 1-866-229-3239. If for any reason you're not able to resolve the issue, please note we will be recording the webinar like we do with all of our webinars, and we'll be posting it on the website within a week. After a week, we will be sending the announcement of the archive of the webinar to everyone who's subscribed to our email. So please, I do encourage you all to be subscribed to our email list so that you can get a link to the recording. Okay, so before we get started, I want to give a little bit of an overview of the Council of State Governments Justice Center so that folks in our audience can know who is hosting today's webinar. Council of State Governments Justice Center, or also known as CSG Justice Center, is a national nonprofit membership association of state government officials in the United States. We work to engage all members of all three branches of state government, and we are here to provide practical, nonpartisan advice informed by the best available evidence, specifically on justice issues. Our website, csgjusticecenter.org, will show you that we work on basically 8 big areas of work: corrections, courts, justice reinvestment, law enforcement, mental health, reentry, substance abuse, and youth issues. Out of the Council of State Governments Justice Center, we run a project called the National Reentry Resource Center, which is supported by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Over the past years, we have worked with over 600 grant recipients across the country, including over now 40 state corrections agencies. In our technical assistance work, we provide individualized training and distance learning to support grant recipients, as well as provide information that is available to the field, like this webinar today on money matters. If you're interested in getting future announcements about our work or events or webinars, please register for our monthly newsletter and our subscriptions at csgjusticecenter.org. Subscribe, and please do share this link with others in your network that are interested in reentry. Another really great resource that's available to everyone that works in the field is the What Works in a Reentry Clearinghouse, and I wanted to make a little promo about this wonderful part of our website. The What Works in a Reentry Clearinghouse is a one-stop shop for research on the effectiveness of a wide variety of reentry programs and practices. It has been developed by us and the Urban Institute with funding provided by Bureau of Justice Assistance. It is available at whatworks.csgjusticecenter.org and is a really wonderful resource for you to use in order to find the best available information on evidence-based practices and programs. And so please do visit it, especially if you have questions about what kinds of programs you should be running at your jurisdiction that can help reduce recidivism with the population that you work with. So now I want to introduce our experts and myself a little bit as we get started. Today, as I said, we are very pleased and privileged to have 2 experts from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is and a part of the federal government that provides information and resources to all types of consumers, including ourselves, as well as our clients that we serve. And we have them today to talk to us about work that they have done in creating this financial literacy toolkit. So one of our first main speakers today is Ms. Mary Griffin, who serves as Senior Advisor in the Office of Financial Empowerment of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She staffs the Bureau's participation on the Federal Interagency Reentry Council, and prior to this, she has worked on representing consumer interests before Congress, federal and state regulators, as well as working in senior counsel with Consumers Union, publisher of consumer reports, and directing policy for the National Cooperative Business Association. In addition to, this is Mary Griffin here, in addition to Ms. Griffin, we have Ms. Patty Avery, program specialist with the Bureau, where she serves as the program manager for the Your Money, Your Goods toolkit and training effort. She joined CFPB in 2012, following a career that included work with street children in Brazil and homeless adults in Amsterdam, local television reporting and production, and has worked for over 7 years in banking, where she led the bank's efforts to develop 18 bank-on programs in its 3-state footprint. So we're very pleased to have her. And as I said, I will be moderating today's webinar here from National Reentry Resource Center. Before we get started and hearing knowledge from our great presenters, I wanted to do a quick live poll to find out who is in our audience today. We know we've had several hundred people register for the webinar, but we are asking for you all to take the next 30 seconds to complete the live poll questions that are here on the bottom right corner of your screen. The first question is, check on your screen, bottom right corner, select which region are you located in, so Northeast, Southeast, Middle, or West. So if you complete that, that would be wonderful. And then the next question is, select which choice best describes your agency, state corrections, local corrections, behavioral health provider, courts, policymaker office, community-based organization, or other. So we'll give you guys 30 seconds to complete this. Thank you.
Which would you all be considered, local corrections or state corrections? Local. We're local. They're taking a poll. You open enough to know where we are.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this quick poll. So as you can tell in the bottom right corner, you can see who is represented on the webinar right now. It looks like 25% of the audience is coming from the West Coast, followed by 20% from Northeast, and 21% from South, and then 16% from Middle. As far as agencies or organizations that are represented, it looks like the majority of folks here are actually community-based organizations. 30% is the representation in the audience, followed by state corrections, and then behavioral health providers, followed by local corrections, and then state courts. Thank you so much for filling that out. It will help us as presenters and moderating the panel to know who our audience is, and we're excited to give this information to you. Okay, so now I'm turning over the reins of the webinar to Ms. Griffin and Ms. Avery, and I will be joining you at the end of the webinar when I will be moderating the question and answer period with our presenters. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And this polling, Patty and I have just been looking at this polling. It's a great thing. It looks like there are people from across the country, so this is a great opportunity. We really appreciate Angela and Jan and NRRC for providing the opportunity for we at the CFPB to connect with all of you and talk about working with justice-involved individuals about the importance of financial empowerment and consumer protection. Patty and I are both with the Bureau's Office of Financial Empowerment, which focuses on helping to improve the lives of low-income and economically vulnerable consumers. And today, some of you may know about the Bureau and what we've done, but today we're just going to start with a brief overview of the Bureau, our mission and resources, and we'll discuss why we've gotten involved in reentry work and our participation on the Federal Interagency Reentry Council and why we think it's critical to help folks in transitioning to civilian life to get assistance with their financial challenges, of which we know there are many. And then we'll spend most of the time talking to you about your money, your goals, the Financial Empowerment Toolkit that the CFPB has put together to help people helping others identify and work with their financial challenges. So just want to make sure I can do this. The CFPB, let me tell you a little bit more about the CFPB, our mission, tools, and resources, and how they link to reentry work. The CFPB was created out of the financial crisis. The financial crisis was complex, but it was rooted in many consumers being sold mortgages and other financial products they did not understand and could not afford. There was not enough consumer protection and also not enough consumer understanding of the consequences of choosing certain products or features. And we all paid a price, some in lost homes and heartache and some in lost home values in the neighborhood. Many others paid a price from the widespread ripple effects on the economy. These are effects you all know that have made it more difficult for those with criminal records to secure jobs or get housing or address so many other financial challenges they face. We have, the CFPB has a number of different statutory objectives, and those statutory objectives we just listed here, most of them relate to making the consumer financial marketplace work better for both consumers and people who play fairly in the marketplace. And part of the mission of Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is to make markets for consumer financial products and services work for consumers by making rules more effective, by consistently and fairly enforcing those rules, and by empowering consumers to take more control over their economic lives. And part of empowering consumers is helping to build the skills that they need to be effective in the financial services market and to help people to obtain and sustain money decision-making skills over their full lives. And you can help to do that with the reentry population, and we hope we can provide the tools that will help you do that. Our work is done across several roles we play as regulators, supervisors, and educators. I'd like to sketch a picture for you of what the CFPB has done for consumers in our first 3 years using those roles. As a regulator, we write rules covering the offering of consumer financial products and services under the federal consumer financial laws. We reshape the mortgage market with a package of regulations to address long-standing issues in mortgage servicing, in how people in the mortgage industry are paid, and the ability to repay on behalf of people looking for mortgages. We've also announced that regulation is coming in the prepaid cards market, and we've taken public comment on what reforms may be needed in debt collection. We also issued a rule on remittances, international money transfers, to help consumers understand better the costs and terms of those transfers. And the Bureau is considering the first federal regulations of payday loans. We're also actively supervising the markets for consumer financial products and services. This is the first time that non-banks have been supervised for consumer financial protection at the federal level. That means we can require non-bank mortgage companies, payday lenders, and others to open their books and show whether and how they are complying with federal consumer financial laws. When companies pay more attention to compliance with consumer protection, consumers get the benefit. And we've gotten results, real results. we have brought enforcement actions, many in partnership with other federal and state regulators, that have returned more than $5.3 billion in refunds or relief to consumers. And we opened our doors in 2011, so we think we're doing pretty good work on that front in a pretty short period of time. And as a result of our enforcement work, nearly 16 million consumers are entitled to refunds or relief. And as I said, we supervise both depositories, banks and credit unions, and non-depositories, payday lenders, mortgage, private student lenders, and other folks in the non-bank space. One of the key ways we serve consumers and learn more about trends in the market is by handling consumer complaints. We take basically any complaint about financial products, and if we don't address it, we send it to either the state or the other federal regulator who's responsible for it. We take complaints about things like student loans, payday loans, debt collection, credit reports and credit cards, bank accounts, just about anything dealing with money. And to date, we've handled over 550,000 complaints. And consumer complaints are absolutely critical to inform our work and help us identify and prioritize problems for potential supervisory, enforcement, and regulatory action. Consumers can submit their complaints online. We have a pretty easy online system where you get a number and you can actually see where the complaint is going and when the company against whom you've submitted the complaint picks up in the system your complaint, and you can watch as it's being dealt with. And here's a list of all the products we're taking complaints about. We also, people can complain via the phone, and we have, via the phone, we have help in over 180 languages. And you can submit complaints both on behalf of your own complaints, but also on behalf of the people you're working with who may be struggling or who have maybe been harmed by financial products and are looking to get some redress. And one thing that's very important to bringing more attention to the financial issues facing the reentry folks you work with is for us to hear from them. So through your programs and websites, one of the things we would really love to see and would appreciate is for you to let people know about our complaint system. Because the more we hear from reentry consumers, the more we can help with financial challenges they face. A lot of our policy, our enforcement actions comes from the learnings through the complaint system. So it's a great way to bring voice to the reentry population and to make sure that they're represented. We also have a tell your story function, which if you don't have a complaint but you'd like to tell us something about what's going on in the market, either bad or good, or anything you're thinking about related to consumer financial products, you can just go on to the website and tell the story. There are stories highlighted there, but not everyone's going to get a picture or wants a picture, obviously. So don't be intimidated by that. We also have CFPB in Espanol, which is our Spanish website, and we have a number of different resources in Spanish. And our work is, sorry, it's not, there we go. Our work is not only about enforcement, regulation, supervision, and handling consumer complaints. We also work to give consumers the tools they need to ask powerful questions about financial products, to plan for goals they set for themselves, and to act on those plans. And that work is done primarily through our Division of Consumer Education and Engagement. And this slide is just to show you that division, which is really our consumer-facing division. And our work ranges from financial education, which addresses needs across the American public, to addressing the needs of special populations, such as service members, older Americans, students, and of course, low-income and economically vulnerable consumers, such as so many of those in the reentry population. So we have, because we were born in the 21st century, we are very much digitally driven. So we love to communicate via our website, and we have a lot of wonderful tools, very accessible tools on that website. One such tool is called Ask CFPB, and it's an interactive, easy-to-use question and answer platform with a set of many questions and answers in plain language. And you can use this to sort of go on and ask questions if you're wondering, like, what's a reverse mortgage? What are my rights under debt collection laws? Things like that. We have several other tools and platforms that address things like student loans or owning a home, but they're easily accessible on the website, and we welcome you to come to the website and kind of look around to see if you want some resources to help you out with some of your financial decisions or the decisions of your clients. Sorry, this just keeps popping back. We also have, our Office of Older Americans has a number of initiatives, and we have guides for managing someone else's money. So for people who have a power of attorney or who are fiduciaries, that's very helpful. Money Smart for older adults, about how to avoid scams, things like that. We also have a very active Office of Service Member Affairs that's doing some great work on helping to protect veterans who are often the most vulnerable of people. And I know there's a large veterans population within the justice-involved population, so please reach out to us about that as well. And of course, as we make it easier for consumers to see risks and compare financial products, we also have to help people build their own financial capabilities so that they can use their opportunities effectively. And as our director, Richard Cordray, has said, we have to close the gap between where consumers are in terms of financial skills and the highly complex financial marketplace that they face. And of course, nowhere is that more important to close the gap than with the most vulnerable of consumers. So our Office of Financial Empowerment serves a large population, 100 million low-income and economically vulnerable consumers, including many of those you serve. So one of the office's key strategies is to work through partners and intermediaries, such as many of the community-based organizations on this call, or working with state corrections workers or local corrections workers. And we have a focus on other federal agencies and other programs that serve the low-income consumers and vulnerable consumers. And working through entities such as the Federal Interagency Reentry Council and its agencies, we leverage our tools with theirs so we can reach consumers through groups on the ground, like so many of you who are working. And what does this mean? Well, it means we look for opportunities to bring financial empowerment to specific populations in need. We're working with people with disabilities, providing tiered financial counseling. We're working with Opportunity Youth. We're working with Department of Labor and Health and Human Services to help bring simple tools to them. We're helping foster youth get access to their credit reports. And we're working to help and encourage taxpayers who receive earned income tax credit, as well as other taxpayers, to save some of their tax refunds so they can get ahead. So we're very interested in reentry because justice-involved consumers are economically vulnerable and face all the financial challenges others do and more. With more than 70 million consumers with criminal records, we know the need is great, and we're really working to identify some of the ways we can help you and help the clients you work with. We know that the barriers they face include issues that are within our sphere, like credit reports, debt collection, and student loans. So we're working to help you get those resources. And one of the ways we're doing that is to work with the Federal Interagency Reentry Council, which is a great resource at the federal level to connect all the different agencies and leverage all the things that we have going on in the various agencies, including removing barriers and policies that hinder folks coming out of prison to successful transition. So with that, I want to turn it over because Patty Avery is here, and she's going to be talking about one of the main tools we have for speaking with folks on the ground, and that's our toolkit. So, Patty?
Thanks, Mary. So Your Money, Your Goals is a toolkit that's accompanied by a training. And so the Bureau has provided at our website downloadable copies of the toolkit, but also the training decks in both English and Spanish. Do you want to?
Oh, sorry.
And we designed Your Money, Your Goals in a modular way. so that organizations can identify the primary financial capability needs of the people that they serve and have ways to quickly zero in on the content that will meet those needs. We've worked with training social service workers, legal aid staff, and others who are working directly with low-income and economically vulnerable consumers. It's proven to be scalable. Within the first 2 years, our goal has been to reach more than 5,000 frontline staff who will serve more than 30,000 consumers, and we are well on track to reach those goals. In our field test alone, through 26 organizations around the country, we trained 1,400 frontline staff. And we're currently working with 10 organizations across the country that have each made commitments to train 500 frontline staff. The toolkit was designed from a national perspective, but it equips local organizations to provide their local context to that picture by, as I said, identifying those local, very specific needs and even individual needs, and to build a resource guide to link consumers to the resources that are accessible to them in their communities. It's customizable. We're in the process of finalizing toolkits that will meet the needs of specific types of intermediaries, and it's written in plain language. Our goal has been to keep it at or near a 6th to 8th grade reading level, and with the exception of the very precise legal descriptions that we have in a few places, we've managed to hold that line. As I said, it's available online, and we'll show you later a screenshot of the page where you can download these tools at consumerfinance.gov. We've built Your Money, Your Goals on a train the trainer model. We have equipped trainers in local communities through these national organizations, but we've also put a Train the Trainer webinar on the web page that we'll be showing you lately. So anyone in your organization who's an experienced trainer can download that Train the Trainer. There's streaming videos. You can watch those that streaming webinar and be equipped then to use the deck that we have created that can be used to train frontline staff. And we've also seen certain organizations around the country, especially in the state of Minnesota, they've been very successful at converting the material to webinars that they are using to train staff in locations where it's impractical to bring everyone together for a training. We built the training in a way that it would enhance people's confidence in talking about finances with their clients. Before we began the work, we engaged in a field scan to understand why, if case managers were avoiding these conversations, why were they avoiding them? And in many cases, it came down to their lack of confidence in their own knowledge of the issues, but also in their own lack of confidence in their own personal financial management skills. So we built the training in a way that as participants experience the training, they are able to make connections to their personal financial lives that then empower them to share the information with the people that they serve. As I said, it's a modular toolkit. It's built to be broken apart, and the training is built to be broken apart as well. And in each section of the training, it describes how long it will take you to do it and allows you to pick and choose the exercises that you would like to do as you would train staff. And it's available for download, as I said, in both English and Spanish. From our field tests and expert panels, we've gotten overall positive feedback about the information in the training. Across the board, in all of our field tests of the various versions that we've been working on, 100% of people agreed or strongly agreed that the toolkit will improve their ability to meet the needs of their clients. We also found that in the social services field test, we followed up 3 months after the training and 6 months after the training. And at that 3-month mark, more than 2/3 of the survey respondents were using the information they'd learned in the workshop or using the actual tools in the toolkit with their clients. When we followed up at 6 months, that had jumped to 70%. And best of all, their confidence in their ability to provide the right content at the right time among this group of active users had actually increased at that 6-month mark. So based on the feedback that we've gotten, we worked to narrow the focus of the modules. We are in the process now of making a digital interactive version that will save time, that will allow organizations to, as you're working one-on-one with people, to quickly jump to the specific information and tools that individual might need and print on demand just that part that you need. We're working to find ways to integrate this future digital offering with current online sites and tools that are accessed, for example, by legal aid. And we're working to incorporate real-life examples. This toolkit can help clients set goals and calculate how much money they need to save or set aside to reach the goals, to establish an emergency savings fund, to access and use tax refunds, to build a simple plan to pay down debt, to know better how to respond to debt collectors. It helps people get and review their credit reports and understand how to take action to fix those errors, to evaluate financial products and services, to identify what they want to accomplish, and it provides tools that help them specifically identify the type of product they need, whether it's a checking account or a savings account or a prepaid card, and then to evaluate those options and make a choice that works for them. And it also equips people to recognize when their consumer rights may have been violated and know how to take action. The toolkit has 2 audiences. It's designed for both the frontline staff and the consumers that they serve. So in each module of the toolkit, there's a narrative for that staff person that provides background information that they can share, and then each module concludes with a set of hands-on tools that they can print out and work through in person with the client or send home, in essence, as homework to bring back and go over at the next meeting. The toolkit begins with a series of introductory modules that are addressed to the user, to the person who's going to be sitting down face-to-face with the client. And it begins, as you would imagine, with an introduction to the toolkit. In the second module, we talk about how to assess the situation, and there are self-assessments for this end user, the social worker, case manager, anyone who's going to have that face-to-face contact with the client, so that they can get a good understanding of what they know, what they don't know, to help them identify products or topics that they would like to learn more about, as well as a client assessment. And the client assessment actually provides a roadmap to the relevant content in the toolkit that would address those situations. There's a module on starting the conversation, because we found when we did our field scan of training efforts that were taking place around the country that case managers and social workers said, well, this is all well and good, this is great information, but I still don't know how to start the conversation. So in the training and in the toolkit, we give some simple examples, some concrete examples of things that they can listen for that can then become a springboard. I often liken it to the training that tellers in banks or member service representatives in credit unions receive. You know, they're taught to cross-sell services, financial services, and this training can help equip social services staff or other staff to cross-sell financial capability, financial empowerment services to the people that they serve. There's a module that gives a basic introduction to emotional and cultural influences on financial decisions, and the training is structured in a way that helps participants begin to identify their own personal biases about money and money management. The training actually begins with an exercise called Money and Me, in which the participants work in groups and just write down everything that comes to mind when they hear the word money. And then the facilitator is able to dive into that and say, well, where did you pick up those attitudes? Are those positive or negative? And identifying where they come from. And as you know, they come from your family of origin, they come from your culture, they can come from the media. But the training's designed to help people step back and identify the things that shape their own perception of money and how we should spend money and manage money, so that they recognize when they're speaking with other people that perhaps that client or that individual doesn't share the same framework around money that you do, and to take care to not impose your own money values on that person. And then there's a module on just some basics around using the toolkit, including a tracking tool that a user can use to document which information tools they've shared with a given client. The toolkit's client-driven. It's designed to, as I said, focus in on what is most important to that client today. What is their most pressing need in terms of financial capability? And so this client, here's a screenshot of the client goal and financial assessment, and as I said, it builds a roadmap. We'll give you a quick kind of speed tour of the toolkit. As I said, Module 3 on starting the conversation provides these types of examples, and in the training, then you're even given the chance to kind of practice some of these situations. Then in Module 5, as we discussed, Module 5 contains a tool that allows you to document what you've covered with someone. If you're meeting with them regularly, meeting with them over time, it just gives you a place where you can make some notes, especially if you've made referrals to another organization in the community. There's also, in the resources that are available at our website, a basic toolkit for building a local referral guide. And in the training itself, this piece is really important because we don't intend for participants in a Your Money, Your Goals workshop to consider themselves now as financial counselors. Not at all. Our goal from the training is that they're equipped to connect people to basic tools that can help them get started on addressing some of these issues, but most importantly, that they have the ability to connect them to others in their community who can help them dig deeper and get the help they need if they have to unravel a complicated problem, such as filing for bankruptcy or responding to a creditor's threat to sue or facing eviction or foreclosure. And so in the training, if a local referral guide has been prepared, this is the time in the training when they look through that guide and discuss it and ask who else should be in this guide. There's also an exercise where together they can build a guide, in essence, by writing down their suggestions of who should be in this and applying them to these different types of issues. And this would be that exercise where during the training people can share who they use in their own practice. Then the toolkit moves into the content modules. And the toolkit, I can't stress enough, is a modular document. Just because these are numbered 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 through 14 doesn't mean that that's the order you use them in. Because as you would seek to address someone's immediate need, maybe if they're dealing with debt collectors, the most important thing is to jump to Module 11 and jump to the information and tools that are relevant to debt collection. Then if you see them over time, you may want then to back up into managing income or paying bills or managing cash flow. So it's not a curriculum, it's a toolkit. So if you can keep that distinction in mind. So Module 6 focuses on setting goals. Module 7 is on savings, and our bias is towards emergency savings. And we focus on setting an achievable goal, like $500 or even $300 in emergency savings before you begin to build toward other goals. Module 8 looks at managing income and benefits, understanding your income, how it comes in, is it regular, is it seasonal, but also the vehicles through which you receive that income, whether you receive it in cash, whether you receive it on a payroll card or direct deposit. And it even includes tools that when people are given a choice can help them identify the tool that they want to use. Module 9 is paying bills. 10 is themes it together with cash flow. 11 is debt. 12 is credit reports and scores. In 13, they look at the financial services products, providers and services that are available to them and a framework for choosing, and then protecting consumer rights. So in Module 6, for example, as I said, we focus on goals and we take the SMART goal framework. So we discuss how do you convert hopes, wants, and dreams into strong goals, into SMART goals that have a time frame and have a specific amount, such as moving from I'd like to buy a new TV to I'll save $400 and buy a new TV in 6 months. In the paying bills module, this is a tool that across the country, as the toolkit has been rolled out, people have received well, and we were privileged to get to observe some case managers in action using the toolkit with their permission and the client's permission, of course. And in an interaction that I got to observe, the case manager used this tool as a guide to her own conversation with the client, who was facing a difficult month when she knew she was going to come up short. And what we know is that people who are in those situations often respond to the squeakiest wheel. When they know they can't pay everything and the phone's ringing off the hook with the debt collector, they may decide they want to pay that just to get the phone to stop ringing, instead of focusing perhaps on making the car payment so they can keep getting to work if they need a car to get to work, or in making sure to pay the rent on time so that they don't lose their housing. So this tool helps provide a framework for those conversations, and if it's appropriate, then the client can actually make notes around, well, which expenses do I have that fall under these categories? Then in Module 11, we talk about debt and dealing with debt, and in that module in the training, we actually begin with an exercise called Good Debt, Bad Debt that's designed to get people to think past conventional wisdom, to pitch out different types of loans and ask if people think it's a good idea or a bad idea, for example, a car loan. And the responses to that vary if you're in a rural community or an urban community, or a mortgage, or student loans, or a payday loan. And as people put their thoughts out about why they think it's a good kind of debt or a bad kind of debt to have, then as a group they begin to hear other perspectives on certain types of loans. Then in the module around selecting financial providers and products, this tool actually begins from the point of what is it that I need to do or that I want to do. Do I want to find a safe and secure place to keep my money? Do I want a low cost and easy way to pay and manage my bills, or do I want to accumulate savings? And based on the task or the goal that they identify, then the accompanying chart helps them identify where they can get a product that will meet that need and the types of products that can meet that need. And then it goes on to a checklist around the benefits and risks of each of those types of products, and even includes a shopping sheet that can help them choose questions that they want to ask. For example, if they're looking for a bank account, then they can identify a series of questions that they want to ask at 2 or 3 places. So this is a screenshot of the website for Your Money, Your Goals, and there you can download the toolkit in English and Spanish. Under the training, you can see that there's an implementation guide. That guide will actually lay out for you the steps in planning a training, including sample invitation letters, the Train the Trainer videos that I mentioned. Then there are the training slides available in both English and Spanish, and the guide to creating a referral guide. Then if your organization would like to use follow-up surveys, we include sample surveys, a pre-training survey, a post-training survey, and a follow-up survey. So with that, I'll toss it back to Mary.
Okay, thanks, Patty. In addition to the wonderful resource that is Your Money, Your Goals, we also have a variety of other flyers and information and resources that you can just order for free from the website that you see here. If you're working in an office and you'd like some materials on, like, check your credit report, please feel free. You just go in and order, and they send it to you. It's all free. and there's also resources in Spanish there as well. Our remittances resources are also in a number of different languages if anyone's working with folks from lots of different countries. And this is just a slide with all the resources. If you want to come to the website, we mentioned a number of them: Tell Your Story, Complaints, Ask CFPB. But just get to consumerfinance.gov, and it's fairly easy to navigate from there. So in terms of the takeaways today, I just wanted to say that I hope you realize that we are here for you. We work for you, and to the extent you have any problems with financial products or you want to find out more about financial products from a fairly objective source, please reach out to us, reach out to the website. And as I said, the more you can tell people about us, especially in the reentry field, the more we can do for the people that you serve. We would love for you to come and use your money or goals. Take it any way you want. You can take 10 pages of it. You can take the whole thing. If you like, a lot of people have their favorite modules. You can incorporate those modules into the work you're already doing. However you want to use it, it's yours for the using. We will be probably developing a reentry guide to the toolkit, a fairly short guide that focuses on some of those issues like background screening reports that are unique to the populations you serve. But we would love, to the extent you're using this, we'd love your feedback on what types of issues you think would be really, really helpful to have in the guide. And just reach out to, we have our empowerment@cfpb.gov. Please reach out there with questions or if you want more information. And then lastly, just please tell others about us, because the more we hear from you, the more we can go. And you can invite us to train or speak at state and national conferences. We're looking at doing some trainings for people who are working with justice-involved individuals in the next year. And if you have specific ideas, I can't say we can do all the trainings, but we do work with a vendor and a number of trainers that we can maybe deploy to a conference if you're interested. So with that, I think I'll pass it back to Angela.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Patty and Mary, for this very thorough presentation. I just have a couple questions that I wanted to field to you that came from the audience. One question that has come up is, can you explain to us what's the distinction in services that are provided through the toolkit that you have versus services that a private citizen could get at a local bank or at a credit union? What is the difference of the information that's given, if any?
That's a great question. I think this toolkit is designed specifically for low-income and economically vulnerable individuals, whereas what they may encounter at their local financial institution may be more general in nature. It includes, for example, information on asset limits. And then I think the other distinction would be the focus on consumers' rights, for example, their rights in debt collection, and the fact that it's built from the consumer's perspective to help the consumer identify which type of financial product will best meet their needs. So it isn't built from the perspective, for example, that everyone should have a bank account. It'll point out the advantages and disadvantages to having a bank account. And there's even a tool that if you've decided that you want to open a bank or credit union account, here are the steps you take to do that. But it can help people look at the whole landscape of the products that are out there. Because CFPB doesn't just regulate and supervise banks and credit unions, but also the non-bank products that Mary talked about, payday lenders, check cashers, prepaid cards, and others, then we can speak authoritatively to that whole landscape in which low-income individuals lead their financial lives.
And the toolkit is more about sort of empowering people to make decisions and to look at the information sort of thoughtfully with an eye on how it can really help them. I think a lot of what we would call more the financial education resources, which we're also very involved in through our financial education, is more about providing information to people about maybe specific types of products or specific skills. But this is more about people often in crisis and helping people in crisis like step back and then through their challenges. So I think that's also part of the difference.
Thank you. Another question from our audience is, how is this information, as far as particularly your future reentry guides, how have other institutions in the Federal Interagency Reentry Council, for example, the Bureau of Prisons, how have they been involved in the production of this work, and do you know to what extent the resources you are providing are resources that can be formally used when providing services, let's say, in federal prisons?
That's a great question, and this is a fairly new effort, but we are trying to get, and that's why this webinar, and it's great working with NRRC on this. We're sort of at the initial stages, but we would hope that any of the prisons, I mean, I have talked to reentry officers in prisons who would very much like to use this, and they're free to use it, but we'll be looking at more formal arrangements, or I guess what's the word when they say that you should use this. I'm sorry, I'm stumped here. But we will be working with the other agencies to try and integrate the toolkit into the materials that they are deploying through down to the people who are working on the ground. And we hope to have a training maybe at the Second Chance Act conference and other places to get it out there. And we would love, you know, the more people are demanding it, that also helps us make the case for it.
Excellent. As far as the resources available through the toolkit, do you need to have internet access in order to utilize them, or what is your recommendation? Is it to print out hard copies and use it that way? It's
online now in PDF format, so you can download it, you can print parts or all of it, but it was designed in print first. But where we're moving to is trying to make it a very highly interactive digital version, but we understand that so many people don't, even if they have computers, accessible computers, they may not be great. So it's very much works as a print product. Some of the forms are there. You don't have to have internet to link to the forms. Most of the things that are in the toolkit are there in paper, and quite frankly, that's the reason it's 300 pages. But you don't use the whole toolkit, you know, you just use parts of it.
And the slides are also available for download, and we deliberately put them out in PDF, in PowerPoint rather than just releasing the PDF, because we recognize that organizations want to break apart the training, and even within one module may choose to only use half the slides. And you have the freedom to insert information that's relevant to you locally, but you just don't put that on a slide with CFPB's logo, but you're always welcome to intersperse your own information in the training as well.
Great. Let's see. So as you've mentioned, it's been the development of the toolkit is still in its early stages, and it's really a great fundamental resource. And you have encouraged people to subscribe to get announcements in order to get future versions and updates on your reentry guide. Another question regarding this is whether or not, who have been the partners that you've been working with to do outreach? You mentioned that there are going to be certain entities that you will be training as far as frontline staff on the toolkit. Can you share a little bit more information about who the outreach partners are, or if there's ways that you have also, the second part to this question is, what have been the ways that you've used to incentivize programs or participants to complete the programs and resources on your toolkit?
Sure. Off the top of my head, the top of my head, sometimes it's challenging to remember all 10 partners who are working with us in the national rollout, but Catholic Charities is a partner, Community Action Partnership, the National Association of Community Health Centers. We're working with the Los Angeles County Department of Consumer Affairs, and they're actually training the county's TANF staff to use the toolkit. The state of Minnesota, 10 interagency work group is using it. USDA Cooperative Extension, and in many of your communities, you may have a cooperative extension educator who is participating in this rollout and is equipped to provide the training for you. So if anyone would like specific information, actually on our website, if you just type in the search box, Your Money, Your Goals, you'll jump to our blog and you'll see 2 blogs, one from July and one from January, that list out the 10 partners.
Great, thank you so much.
And to answer the second part of the question, we're not a grant-making agency, so they're not receiving any funding from us to do these trainings. But during the national rollout, these partners are receiving copies of the toolkits and the Train the Trainer that we're providing for them. But in return, they're submitting data back to us, the surveys, so that we can get a good sense of how effective the training is.
Great, thank you so much. Do you know, as far as in your toolkit, as far as whether or not you talk about sort of basics in check and bank budgeting, like personal budgeting, to what extent one of the questions has been about how, like, providing advice to individuals who are coming home from being incarcerated, how to help them handle cash flow issues, you know, payment of debt and that kind of thing. Just curious how much do you go into helping people manage their personal budget issues or balancing their checkbook issues?
Actually, a lot of the toolkit is focused on doing just that, doing money management and helping with money management skills. So there's a whole section on cash flow budgeting, not just budgeting, but really taking your cash and figuring out when it's needed. It's a great tool. A lot of people have really liked it. We have information on how to manage your debt and how to track it and how to figure out which debt to pay off first. So it's really focused on personal money management skills.
Great, and I think another question that's pretty relevant, as all of us know, it is tax refund season or tax season, right? So to what extent in your toolkit as well do you talk about how to handle payment of taxes or back tax issues?
Well, we don't get into a lot of tax advice. I mean, there's a real fine line with you know, just providing information and then providing advice. We do have, part of our office actually is working with volunteer tax assistance sites. So one of the things we're trying to do with the toolkit is get people to those sites and get them to understand the value of those sites. And we do have a section on the earned income tax credit, so people can find out, you know, whether they might qualify for the earned income tax credit. But we don't really get into providing any tax advice because obviously that's so individualized. But we really would urge people to use the VITA sites.
What is the VITA site? Can you explain that again?
So that's volunteers and tax assistants. IRS and others support these sites. They're all around the country, and I'd be happy if people send emails to Empowerment. We'd be happy to get you information about it. But you can go to these sites, and if you are below a certain income level, you can get free tax assistance.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Great. Well, thank you again for being presenters on this webinar. I think there are a lot of really good questions that have come out, and as mentioned, we're encouraging our audience to reach out to you both through empowerment@cfpb.gov. As noted, this webinar will be available via the webinar archive recording page at the NRSC, National Reentry Resource Center, within a week's time, and we will also be able to send it around. Please do subscribe in order to get announcements. Thank you so much to everyone who attended today, and we look forward to getting more information from Mary and Patty regarding this toolkit for people who are coming home from prison and jail. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a good day.